Hi, my name is Kim, and I wanted to just share a little bit about what my initial journey was like regarding getting diagnosed with Tarlov Cysts disease. You'll have to forgive me because I'm driving a little bit down the road, and I won't make a lot of eye contact, but I really did just want to kind of hopefully put it out there, document it for myself, and also be able to maybe help someone else who has a similar journey as me. I am currently 34, and back in 2012, which is about 6 years ago, I started having some pain in my shoulder. I didn't have an accident or anything like that would have instigated my pain. It just kind of came on. I was pretty active. I played roller derby, skating. There were some falls included in that, but that was pretty normal for playing roller derby. I danced and did Zumba dance fitness and things like that. And I was just getting lots of shoulder pain that I couldn't really figure out. So I went to my doctor, my primary care doctor, and told them about my shoulder pain, and they recommended I go and do some more Eastern medicine type things like chiropractic work and acupuncture, but said that they're not really that concerned about the shoulder pain. And so I went down that route, went and got lots of massages, went to a chiropractor and got regular adjustments, and even went to acupuncture and did some sessions there, but none of it was really providing me with the care I needed. My chiropractor would do work with a TENS unit, which kind of gave me some temporary relief, and would tape my shoulder back, so because they assumed it was postural issues while at work, which I tend to sit with my shoulders hunched forward while I work at my desk job. But I still was having, pretty abnormal shoulder pain. I found by keeping an eye on it that I had, that it was very, I guess the best word would be to say it got exacerbated by stress. So whenever I was stressed, it would really, really flare up, or if I overexerted myself, it would flare up. I went back to my primary care doctor a while later, maybe about a year later, and we did some nerve tests, and none of the nerves showed that I had nerve damage, which was good. So they continued just to say, be less stressed, and continued going down the path of, chiropractic work and things like that. And after a while, when I would bring it up to my doctors, they would say that, allude to that it's not an issue, with the rest of my body. It is just stress-induced, and I kind of just wrote it off as something that I would have to deal with. And it wasn't until this past summer, the summer of 2018, where I'm just sick. Oh yeah, this is awesome. Can you hear it? I don't know if you can hear it. Really loud music. So I'll try to talk a little louder, but I ended up, I'm waiting for this light to change. I ended up just realizing I'm 34. I don't need to live with this long-term chronic pain. It was pretty much daily. I have learned that if, I keep my stress level down, I don't have as many flare-ups. And I find that if I'm laying down or reclined, that my shoulder pain stays pretty neutral. But this summer, my pain started getting a little worse. My neck has less mobility. I started getting clicking sounds, like pain in my in my armpit. When I tilt my head to the right side, I would get a sharp pain in my armpit, and whenever I tilt my head back, I hear popping sounds. I started getting tinnitus in my ears, so ringing in my ears that's completely constant. It's just this high-pitched frequency sound that's there all the time, which was never there before. And getting a little bit of tingling down my arms. And so I just decided this summer that I needed to go back to my primary. I switched primary care doctors. I was not happy with my original primary care doctor. I had other issues that would come up every once in a while, and he just kept saying it's in your head and it's nothing to be worried about. And I didn't feel like I was being taken seriously. And the one thing I learned throughout helping family and friends through going to the hospital is advocating for yourself. And I found that I really had to fight and speak up for the things I believed in. And if I didn't think that they were doing something correctly or listening to me, really stand up and fight for yourself. And so I decided this summer that I was going to do that for myself. I went to a new primary care doctor, got that all settled, got a referral to a guy who does body work, and I can't think of his fancy title, but it doesn't really matter. And we started going through the diagnostic process with him, and we did some x-rays on my shoulder because that's where most of my pain centers. Those came up fine. We did an MRI on my shoulder. Those came up fine. He did some injections into my shoulder, steroid injections that are supposed to release, because I had this mass of muscle in my shoulder that just never really released. You can move it around with your thumb. It was really gross. And he did some injections into my shoulder, and they worked. It felt great for about a week, but then the pain came back, and they were supposed to last significantly longer. So he decided that my shoulder was not the source of my pain, and I told him early on in my meeting with him that I wanted to be aggressive. I don't care how many tests we have to do. I need to figure out what this is. And so we went into my neck, did some x-rays and MRIs of my neck, and then finally we found some Tarlov cysts. I have bilateral perineural Tarlov cysts in my C5 through T1, and that basically means that there's all the nerves have like a nerve ending, and then there's a sheath that goes over that initial nerve, and when spinal fluid gets in there, it can dilate that sheath, and that's what a Tarlov cyst is. Most Tarlov cysts are asymptomatic, so they don't have symptoms that come along with them, and they're often ignored when they're seen on on MRIs, and been told that they don't cause issues, so you need not to worry about it. My largest one is 7 millimeters big, and they luckily, I was very, very lucky that this doctor that I went to believed, after we did all these other tests, we did a nerve test with him too, that he believes that it was the cause of my symptoms. But because they're not handled very often, treated, he basically told me that it was super risky, and that I shouldn't, the risks are too high for me to do any form of surgery on it, and I'm just going to have to kind of deal with that. And I cried at that appointment because I'm in so much pain, and I told myself I would do whatever I needed to do to get out of pain, because I shouldn't have to alter all my workouts at 34. I shouldn't have to not want to go do things at 34. I mean, I have bad knees, but aside from that, like, I shouldn't have to not do things and experience life because my shoulder hurts so much all the time. And so I left there feeling very defeated, very empty, that I didn't have any options. And so I started doing a little online research, because he didn't tell me a whole ton about these cysts. I did some online research and learned more about it. And then, because Tarlov cysts typically happen in the sacrum, so the lower back, I didn't have a lot of information to go on, because mine are in my neck. And so I on a whim one day while I was at work, I Googled Tarlov Cysts into Facebook and found a really awesome Facebook group that that shares information about, people who have Tarlov cysts journeys. And I quickly learned how misdiagnosed people are with them, and how that there's only basically two people in the U.S. that do surgeries on Tarlov cysts, and all of the horror stories that come around with people, misdiagnoses and everything else. And so I quickly gained some new hope, that I had a chance, that I had opportunities to reach out to someone who could potentially help me figure out what to do with my journey. And so I gathered all of my health records, and I reached out and sent my stuff to a gentleman named Dr. Feigenbaum in Texas. I also found the Tarlov Cysts Disease Foundation, which had a lot of information that was super helpful on it, and sent my records in to him to be reviewed. And I'll talk about more of that later, but that whole process up until getting my records sent off to Dr. Feigenbaum was a little terrifying, a lot of unknowns, a lot of researching, I'm that person who needs to know all the details, and so I can flesh out every possibility of how this can go right or wrong, and so I can feel comfortable and safe with the decisions I'm making. And it was really hard. I had a lot of people and doctors that basically said, "Oh, don't do anything about it." And that was just scary. So I finally got to where I was going. That's just a little bit about me and my initial journey, about how I got diagnosed, and kind of my initial steps to kind of getting to where I am today. I hope to make another video shortly about how sending over the records to Dr. Feigenbaum and all of that next stuff that kind of came to be, and share just more about what I've done to prep and things like that in my journey. So hopefully you stick with me, if nothing else, and nobody watches this. It's a healthy record for me to kind of know where I've been, where I'm going in my kind of healing journey. And so I will talk to you soon.